Let's talk about Confucius. More than 2,000 years ago, he created this incredible blueprint for building character. And it had nothing to do with money or power. It was all about becoming what he called a junzi, a gentleman. So we're going to dive in and see what his ancient wisdom can teach us, right here, right now, about building a life that actually means something.
At the heart of his entire philosophy is one single massive question. It's a question we all ask ourselves, right? What does it actually mean to be a complete person? What are the pieces you need? That's what we're going to unpack today through the eyes of Confucius.
And here's how we're going to do it. First, we'll nail down what this gentleman ideal even is. Then, we'll dig into the inner virtues, the foundation. After that, we'll see how you express those virtues through your actions, how they get tested in the real world, and finally, why this whole thing is a journey that never, ever ends. All right, first up, the gentleman's ideal. To even begin to get what Confucius is talking about, we have to start with this one core concept. So, what in the world did he mean by this word, the jinza? Okay, this is absolutely huge. You have to remember, this was an age of super strict social classes. But Confucius's idea, it was revolutionary. He said being a gentleman had nothing to do with your fancy family or how much money you had. It was all about your inner moral compass, your integrity. It was a status you had to earn, not one you were born into.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because it kind of flips our modern ideas of success on their head. For Confucius, the goal isn't to get to a point where you can just kick back and relax. Nope. The gentleman is always pushing, always striving on a path of purpose. Getting cozy and complacent? That's the exact opposite of the ideal.
Okay, so if it's all about striving and not about comfort, that brings us to our next part, the core of virtue. If this whole gentleman thing is built from the inside out, what does that inner foundation actually look like? What's going on in your head and in your heart? One of the best ways Confucius explained his ideas was by showing you two different paths, and this is one of his most powerful examples. The gentleman is always looking up, towards moral growth, towards wisdom, towards the greater good. The small man, on the other hand, is always looking down, at petty self-interest, gossip, the small stuff. It's such a simple but deep way of asking, which direction are you facing in life? Seriously, doesn't this sound like it could have been written yesterday for an Instagram post? It's wild. Confucius saw this massive difference in why people learn. Are you doing it for genuine self-improvement, or are you just trying to get likes and impress everyone around you? He's basically warning us that learning just to look good is completely empty. And this really gets to the heart of it. Of course, you need to earn a living, but Confucius says it's shameful if that's your only goal, especially if you have to throw your principles out the window to get it. For the gentleman, purpose and integrity always come before profit. And this is just a brilliant piece of psychology. Confucius totally got that our character gets tested at both extremes. We love to call out the arrogance of the rich, right? But he points out that it's just as hard, maybe even harder, to keep your cool and not become bitter when you're poor and the world is treating you unfairly. True virtue has to hold up under both tests. So we've got the inner foundation of virtue figured out. Great. But what's the point if it doesn't actually guide you in the real world? And that brings us to part 3, matching words with deeds. This is all about that critical link between what you say you believe and what you actually go out and do. The idea here is so simple but so powerful. Talk is cheap. For the gentleman, there's nothing more embarrassing than making big promises that your actions can't back up. Your deeds should always live up to your words, or even better, go beyond them. That right there is the definition of integrity. So when someone asked Confucius, hey, what makes a complete person? His first answer was, well, basically impossible. He points to all these real people who were famous for being impossibly wise, or having zero desires, or being insanely brave. It's a standard so high that you just look at it and think, yeah, right, no way. But, and this is so important, just as everyone was probably feeling totally defeated, Confucius does something brilliant. He pivots. He shows he's not just some philosopher with his head in the clouds. He gives them a path that people can actually walk. And here it is. This is the practical, achievable core. And notice, this isn't about being a superhero. It's about the choices you make. When you see a chance for profit, do you remember what's right? When things get dangerous, are you willing to stand up for what you believe in? And when life gets hard, do you stick to your principles? If you can do these things, Confucius says, then yeah, you can call yourself a complete person. All right, so we have a practical guide. But now let's raise the stakes. Section 4 is all about virtue in practice. How does this personal character stuff hold up in the public arena, where your decisions can affect thousands of people? This is the ultimate test.
So to really dig into this, Confucius gives us a real-world case study. There's this guy, Quan Chung, who faces an impossible choice: stay loyal to his prince who just lost a battle, or serve the guy who killed him in order to help the entire empire. So what do you do? So the arguments were laid out pretty clearly. On one hand, his critics were calling him a traitor. They said the code of honor demanded that he die with his prince. But Confucius saw it completely differently. He argued that by serving the new ruler, Quan Chung brought stability and basically saved their whole civilization from falling apart.
And this is his killer line. That phrase, wearing our hair down and folding our robes to the left, was their way of saying reverting to barbarism. So Confucius's verdict is crystal clear. Quan Chung's action, even though it broke a personal loyalty code, was the most benevolent act of all, because he saved everybody. The greater good was the ultimate measuring stick.
And this just perfectly shows the Confucian model for making a difference. It's like a ripple effect. It all starts with you. First, you work on yourself. That enables you to bring peace and order to the people right around you, in your community. And only then can you hope to bring peace to everyone. It all begins with that one person's commitment to getting better. Which brings us to our final and maybe the most important piece of the puzzle. Becoming a gentleman isn't a box you check. It's not a destination you finally arrive at. It is a process, a journey that lasts your entire life.
Okay, so get this. A messenger comes and delivers this report about his boss, and Confucius just heaps praise on the guy. Why? Because the report was so honest and humble. It showed his master wasn't pretending to be perfect. The real virtue wasn't in being perfect. It was in the constant, sincere effort to just be a little bit better, to reduce your errors.
And at the end of the day, that's what it all comes down to. The whole philosophy is built on this idea of continuous self-improvement. What defines the gentleman isn't achieving perfection. It's the relentless, lifelong dedication to the journey of becoming a better person.
We're going to end with this incredible quote, spoken by a gatekeeper about Confucius himself. Think about it. He sees this man who is fighting for a perfect world that he knows deep down he'll never actually achieve. So is that a failure, or is that the very definition of a purposeful life? It's a question that really forces you to think about what success truly means, and it's the perfect place to leave our exploration of this timeless blueprint for character.